So in the last video we installed our microservice as an external service in Kubernetes. In this video we're going to take a look at Ingress. We're going to convert the service to a cluster IP and we're going to configure Ingress to forward external requests into the cluster. Okay, so in the last video we installed our microservice in Kubernetes and we defined a service which was a node port type, so that's an external service so that we can visit it. So we can go to a web browser and the node port is running on port 30,000. So if we visit localhost 30,000 we can see our hello world. I said in the last video this isn't really the way we want to do things. We want to use Ingress, which acts as a router into our Kubernetes cluster. So we're going to install an Ingress controller. This we have to do first, and then we can define our Ingress, and then we can define our rules which specify which services we want to forward incoming requests to. So the instructions for installing Ingress, there's several different Ingress implementations that we can install, but the one from Kubernetes is Nginx Ingress, and there's instructions at this address how to install it. We can install the Ingress controller with a kubectl apply. This is the YAML to deploy the Ingress controller. It's coming from a remote site. If we run that command it will install the Ingress controller for us. Now if we do kubectl get namespaces, we'll look at namespaces in the next video, but we can see that we have default namespace, which is the namespace that we've been installing things into, and then we have a namespace Ingress Nginx. So I'll do kubectl get all and then n for namespace and Ingress Nginx. We can see that it's installed a bunch of different things, but importantly we have a pod called Ingress controller and that is running. Now there's a command that they recommend we use in the instructions for installing Ingress, which waits for the controller to be ready. I'm just going to run that and confirm condition met, so we know the Ingress controller is installed. Now we can modify our YAML and include an Ingress definition, and we'll be using Ingress instead of the external service. So the first thing I want to do is modify my external service to be the default type, which is a cluster IP, so I don't want to specify type there, and I can get rid of node port here. So we just have our service running on port 80, target port 8085, which is the container port for our microservice deployment. And then here is the YAML for our Ingress. So we have 3 lines as before to define a separate YAML section, and then here we have the API version and the kind. This time is Ingress. We're doing a rewrite target. I'll explain what that is when we've got it working. And the name of the Ingress, MSHW Ingress, and then we define a series of rules as a list. Now I'm saying incoming requests on mshw.com and the path /test, path type prefix, so anything with /test before it on the get request should go to the back end of service, mshw service, which corresponds with the service name that we have there, and port number 80, which corresponds with the port there. So I'll run that and I'll apply our YAML again, kubectl apply f, and there we've not changed the deployment, we've configured the service and we've created the Ingress. Now sometimes we have to wait for things to happen, so I'm going to do kubectl get Ingress and -w for watch. That means that it will list our components. We could do it with pods or anything else, but if anything changes on this component it will give us an updated line, and I can cancel the watch by pressing Ctrl+C. So what I'm waiting for is the Ingress to get an external address. and there we have an external address of localhost. So now if we visit the cluster with the host name mshw.com/test, it will forward it to our service. So I'm just going to open up my hosts file. On Linux this is etc hosts, but on Windows it's I'll just confirm the location. It's C Windows System 32, I think it is, followed by drivers, and then etc, and then hosts. So we need to edit that file to say that mshw.com is being redirected to 127.0.0.1, which is the localhost IP address. So this this host file, in case you're not sure, is basically the first DNS lookup that your machine will do. So when it sees mshw.com, it will return the DNS address of the localhost. So now if I pull up a browser and visit mshw.com/test, we see hello world. So this time Ingress is forwarding things to our service, and this is the better way of doing things, because with the Ingress we can define different rules and we've got control over where we're redirecting things. Also, we're not exposing ports of the internal services on Kubernetes, so it's better for security reasons. Now I've got path test. What this annotation here is doing, rewrite target, is it saying rewrite the /test to be just /. So when we visit the service, we're not visiting the service with the path of /test. Now I'm just going to remove that and just visit the path, just the default path, and reapply the Ingress, reapply the YAML file, save it first, reapply it. We've reconfigured the Ingress, and now we have our service running straight on mshw.com, and there, hello world. I'm just going to do kubectl get all, and we can see that we're looking in the default namespace, so we can see our things, but we don't see the Ingress things because they're in a different namespace. So kubectl get namespaces, and we can see Ingress has installed, the Ingress controller has installed itself in a custom namespace. So what we're going to do in the next video is we're going to look at namespaces, and we're going to put our application into its own namespace. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching.